Dom Cascarelli suggested I do an ENTJ versus ESTP video. I thought it was a good idea, so I'm going to do it. As usual, this video is going to be going over the cognitive functions. ENTJs and ESTPs are both extroverts, which means they're going to be using an extroverted function as their dominant function. They're going to be active and involved people, dealing mostly with the external world. However, they deal with this external world in very different ways. The ESTP's first function is extroverted sensing, or SE. SE is a perception function. It is going to be taking detailed sensory information from the external world. It looks at things that are right in front of it. It looks at things for what they are, interpreting them literally. It looks at surface appearances. SE can also entail acting boldly on impulse. So you'll often see ESTPs involved in activities where SE can be actively used, such as sports. ENTJs are using extroverted thinking as their dominant function. TE is a judgment function. It is coming to conclusions and assumptions based on external factors. It looks at external factors like data and facts. High use of TE often involves directing or taking action. You'll often see ENTJs directing others and telling them what to do. TE and SE can sometimes look alike because they're both active. A lot of times they both involve action. The key difference to take into account here is that TE is a judgment function, SE is a perception function. TE is always pushing forth some judgment, some assumption, some agenda. Its action is purposeful. All SE is doing is just trying to take in as much sensory information. It's not really pushing forth some agenda or some conclusion. ESTPs are using introverted thinking as their second function. TI comes to judgments and conclusions internally based on whether something makes sense or seems logical to the person. The third function of the ESTP is extroverted feeling, or FE. FE makes judgments and assumptions based on external emotional factors, such as the emotions and needs of others, social consensus, social rules. The ESTP is going to be coming to judgments and conclusions using both TI and FE to a good amount. This is in contrast to the ENTJ. They're mostly going to be coming to judgments and conclusions using their extroverted thinking. So these types are coming to judgments and conclusions in very different ways. The ENTJ is using introverted intuition, or NI, as their second function. NI tries to push away all the details that are in front of them to get to the core idea, the core meaning behind something. It tries to look at the meaning behind the details. They're going to be interpreting information a lot, looking at information which isn't directly in front of them. Whereas the ESTP is going to be looking at things in a very literal fashion. ESTPs are probably going to be a lot more about specifics and the details. ENTJs are going to be more interested in general concepts and the big idea behind things. Abstract topics such as humanity's current situation, or where a certain field of study is headed. These are going to be things that the ENTJ is going to be looking at. The ESTP is going to want to look at real world information, stuff that applies to the real world right now. They're not going to want to go into those abstract topics like the ENTJ is going to be inclined to do. The third function of ENTJs is extroverted sensing, SE. They're also going to be taking in a good amount of information that is based on the surface appearance of things and details and sensations. And they're also going to be pretty good at taking bold physical action on impulse. ESTPs are using NI as their fourth function. To a very small extent, they're going to be perceiving the appearances behind the details. It's going to be their weak point though. The ENTJs have introverted feeling, or FI, as their fourth function. FI comes to judgments and conclusions internally based on an internal feeling that you have, an internal feeling about whether something is good or bad or should be valued. FI is pretty far down on the list for the ENTJ. They're mostly going to be coming to judgments and conclusions with their TE. A big difference between ENTJs and ESTPs is the type of feeling they're using. Because the ESTP is using feeling as their third function, the ENTJ is using feeling as their fourth function, and also because the ESTP's feeling is extroverted, the ESTP is going to be more accommodating to the emotions of others, more reactive. The unbalanced ENTJs who haven't developed their functions very well, you're going to see them steamrolling over people, not really caring about the feelings they affect or the feelings they hurt. Although there are well-developed ENTJs who do pay attention to the feelings of others and don't just steamroll over them. Subscribe if you want to see more MBTI videos. Feel free to ask me any questions, either through comments or a private message. See you next time.